January 26th, 2014. Pittsburgh. The Royal Rumble match is in its final minutes. 29 men have entered the ring, and the last entrant expected by the 12,000 people in the building and the hundreds of thousands watching at home is a man named Daniel Bryan. But Bryan doesn't enter. Instead, number 28 is Batista, a performer returning after 4 years away, positioned by the company as a triumphant comeback, and as the story everyone is here to see. The 30th entrant is Rey Mysterio, whose entrance confirms, definitively, that Bryan's name will not be called. Batista eliminates the remaining competitors. His music plays. And 12,000 people boo him out of the building. There is something in the sound. It is the audience that has been insulted by a decision they weren't given, refusing to perform the emotion the production is asking for, and turning on the scripted outcome with a fury that is purely refusal. The broadcast tries to paper over it. The commentary team performs an enthusiasm the building is withholding, and the cameras avoid the sections of the crowd holding up protest signs. But none of it works. The record of what happened in Pittsburgh on January 26, 2014 is in the unedited audio, available to anyone who wants to hear it. The fans were telling the company something, and 71 days later, in New Orleans, the company listened. Daniel Bryan wins the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 30. 75,000 people in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome doing the gesture, making the sound, and receiving what they had been demanding for 3 years. The main event of WrestleMania 30 was a different match from what had been planned a year earlier. By most credible accounts, it was a different match from what the company was building toward the night Batista's music played in Pittsburgh, and the building made itself understood. It is the match the fans demanded. The fans were right. I want to say that before anything else. The record they built, the weekly attention, the institutional memory, the accumulated evidence of every override, every ceiling, every year the company looked at what was in front of it and chose something else, is accurate. The analysis holds. The frustrations were proportionate. I am going to start from that position. The fans were right. But what I want to examine is what the winning looked like. Between 2011 and 2013, Daniel Bryan developed into one of the most technically accomplished professional wrestlers working anywhere in the world. His in-ring record across those years represents a standard of craft that the critical community evaluated as among the highest ever reached inside a WWE ring. But the company ran him as a comedic figure for most of it. There were flashes of main event positioning. There were title reigns. Yet the consistent institutional read on what Daniel Bryan was for across those years was this: a technically gifted performer whose size and presentation don't fit the main event, so he was deployed usefully in the mid-card. The fans disagreed in sustained, weekly, unambiguous terms. The yes chant, the gesture Bryan developed from a character detail, a wrestler who reflexively affirmed everything in an almost manic way, migrated out of the character and into the audience. It began appearing at events where Bryan wasn't even booked, at arenas the company was using for other shows, and at sporting events that had nothing to do with professional wrestling. The chant had left its vessel. The audience had taken possession of something the company had considered a bit and declared it theirs. The company noticed, and the company continued its creative direction anyway. This is what institutional override looks like in practice. The company had legible, weekly, measurable evidence of an audience response that contradicted its creative assessment. This is the context that produces Pittsburgh. The eventual creative direction, the WrestleMania 30 arc, produced some of the most emotionally resonant professional wrestling of the decade. The audience understood what they had before the company did. The protest in Pittsburgh was a legitimate response to a genuine institutional failure, and the record confirms it. But what I want to examine is what happened next to the relationship. I want to tell you about 3 wins. The actual experience of what it felt like to watch a wrestling company change course because of what an audience refused to perform. The first win, New Orleans, April 2014. The path to WrestleMania 30 was messy. Between Pittsburgh and New Orleans, the company ran Bryan through a series of creative choices that read, from the outside, as an institution managing an audience demand it couldn't fully absorb. He was featured, but at a volume below what the moment required. He won, but in context that seemed designed to stop short of the story the audience was demanding. The Royal Rumble result that had inflamed Pittsburgh remained in place, and Batista remained on the WrestleMania trajectory. But the yes chants kept coming, louder now, more targeted, more pointed, to the point that it escaped wrestling and became a pop culture phenomena. Eventually, the company added Daniel Bryan to the WrestleMania main event, first against Triple H, and then, when he won that match, into the title match against Batista and Randy Orton. The moment the referee's hand completed its third count is available to watch. 75,000 people in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome doing the gesture, making the sound, and receiving what they had been demanding for 3 years. The crowd footage from the final moments of that match, the crowd alone, is among the most documented instances of genuine mass emotional experience in the history of the form. The fans won. The second win, Boston and beyond, 2018 to 2019. The Becky Lynch arc covers different ground, but it operates on a similar axis. A performer whose talent and connection with the audience were visible and measurable, managed creatively in a way that consistently positioned her beneath the level her demonstrated quality and crowd response warranted. The gap between what the audience saw in Becky Lynch and what the company was asking her to do was real, and it was documented weekly. In the summer of 2018, that gap closed in one night, a match at SummerSlam where Lynch turned on Charlotte Flair, and the crowd immediately made her the story's protagonist. 3 months later, in November 2018, Lynch suffered a broken nose in a brawl that the company used to remove her from the Survivor Series match against Ronda Rousey. But the audience's response to that removal was immediate and sustained. The hashtags, the crowd responses, and the refusal to engage with the company's preferred narrative produced a measurable result in weeks. By WrestleMania 35, Becky Lynch was the most prominent performer in the company. First women ever standing tall at the main event of WrestleMania, holding 2 titles simultaneously, in an arc that had been driven from the ground up by an audience that refused the story they were being offered and demanded the story they saw. The fans won. The third win, Philadelphia Night 2, April 7th, 2024. Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble match on January 27, 2024. The crowd in St. Petersburg understood what this meant. The story was moving toward its conclusion. Rhodes was going to WrestleMania. Rhodes was going to finish the story. 6 days later, The Rock appeared on SmackDown. Dwayne Johnson, board member of TKO, the parent company of WWE, used his institutional position to insert himself into the WrestleMania 40 main event. The championship match that had been Rhodes's was restructured. The company had a different story in mind. Rock versus Roman. 2 names with a cultural footprint beyond professional wrestling. A spectacle on a scale the company wanted for its flagship event. The company made its choice, but the crowd made its position known before the segment ended. We want Cody. The chant was in every arena, in matches that had nothing to do with the situation, during segments that featured neither Rhodes nor the championship picture. For 2 years, the crowd had been moving toward one ending. The Royal Rumble win should have cleared the path, but the company handed the main event slot to someone else. The restructure continued anyway. The eventual shape of WrestleMania 40 was this. Night 1. The Rock and Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. The crowd that had been demanding Rhodes' championship match received a tag team match. The Bloodline won. Rhodes and Rollins lost. The crowd that had spent 2 years building Finish the Story went home from Night 1 without the story finished. Night 2. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. 1-on-1. The championship, the story. The referee's hand hit the mat 3 times. 67,000 people in Lincoln Financial Field received what 2 WrestleManias in 12 months of We Want Cody had been building toward. The championship changed hands. The story finished. The fans won. 3 times across a decade, the wrestling audience organized its attention and its pressure and its sustained refusal to accept the story it was being offered, and the company delivered the story it was demanding instead. This is the record of victories. It is accurate. The wins were real. The emotion was real. And the performances that resulted were among the most celebrated in modern professional wrestling. I have been honest about this because what comes next requires it to be stated clearly first. The wins were real. Now, I want to show you what winning looks like from slightly further back. I want to map 3 moments against each other to find the shape they share. The Daniel Bryan arc, stripped to its mechanical structure. Step 1. The company presents a direction. The direction does not feature Bryan prominently. The audience registers its disagreement, and the company continues. Step 2. The audience's disagreement escalates. The yes chant migrates out of the arenas. Pittsburgh happens. The crowd turns on a pay-per-view event in visible, sustained, nationally televised terms. Step 3. The company continues with its original trajectory. Batista remains in the WrestleMania plan. Bryan is added to a preliminary match, and the gap between what the audience wants and what the company is providing reaches its highest pressure point. Step 4. The company changes course. Bryan is added to the main event. The arc resolves at WrestleMania. The crowd receives what it has been demanding. Step 5. The moment is celebrated as proof that the audience has genuine power. The Becky Lynch arc. Step 1. The company presents a direction at SummerSlam 2018 that does not match the audience's read on who the story should be about. The audience registers its disagreement. Step 2. The company attempts to manage the disagreement, using Lynch's broken nose in November 2018 to remove her from the Survivor Series match against Ronda Rousey. But the audience's response to this management is immediate and louder than the original disagreement. Step 3. The company reverses. Lynch becomes the protagonist, and the gap between what the audience demanded and what the company was providing closes rapidly. Step 4. By WrestleMania 35, the arc resolves on the audience's terms. Lynch wins. Step 5. The moment is celebrated as proof that the audience has genuine power. The Cody Rhodes arc. Step 1. Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble 2024. The audience has established its read across 2 years and 2 WrestleManias. The championship match is earned. The conclusion is expected. Step 2. The Rock inserts himself. The company uses institutional machinery, a board-level executive leveraging corporate position, to restructure the WrestleMania main event. But the crowd's response is immediate. We want Cody. The chant is in every building before the week is out. Step 3. The company continues with the restructured plan. Night 1 of WrestleMania 40 delivers The Rock and Roman Reigns against Rhodes and Seth Rollins under bloodline rules. Rhodes' team loses. The championship is not resolved, and the crowd that built 2 years of pressure goes home from Night 1 without the conclusion they came for. Step 4. Night 2. The match the crowd has been demanding across 2 years and 2 WrestleManias is delivered. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, one-on-one for the championship. Step 5. Rhodes wins, and the moment is celebrated as proof that the audience has genuine power. Look at those 5 steps. Look at them again. The sequence. Company presents direction, audience resists, company continues, pressure builds past breaking point, company delivers resolution, fans celebrate their power, is identical across all 3 cases. Identical. Same shape, same beats, same emotional arc. The faces are different. The storylines are different. The texture of each moment of resistance is different, but the underlying structure is the same document. Professional wrestling has a name for the structural mechanic that produces the most reliable emotional response the form can generate: the near fall. And I want to tell you what a near fall feels like from inside a building, because describing the mechanic from outside, it loses half of what it is. The count reaches 2. Your body does something. Your hands tighten. Something moves upward in your chest. You already know, intellectually, that the shoulder is going to rise. You have watched this form long enough to read a match, but the knowledge does not stop the physical response. The count reaches 2, the shoulder rises, and you are immediately, without choosing to be, building toward the next attempt. The challenger gets close. The count reaches 2, the shoulder rises. The crowd releases its held breath and immediately begins building new pressure toward the next attempt. The near fall is a structural promise. The resolution is reachable, the gap is crossable, and the next attempt carries all the weight of the failed one. Expand the near fall to the level of an arc. The hero gets close to their goal and falls short. The faction almost fractures. The payoff is withheld at the exact moment when delivery would have been less valuable than continued investment. You know this mechanic. You can name it. You have watched it operate hundreds of times. Now, look at the 5-step structure again. Step 1. Company presents unpopular direction. The challenger has not yet made a pinfall attempt. The tension is building. Step 2. Audience resists. The challenger covers the champion. The crowd holds its breath. Step 3. Company continues. Resists the audience's demand. The count reaches 2. The shoulder rises. Step 4. Pressure reaches its peak. Pittsburgh. The SummerSlam injury response. Night 1 and We Want Cody. The crowd releases its breath and immediately begins building new pressure toward the next attempt. Step 5. Company delivers. The count reaches 3. The resolution arrives. arrives. The near-fall mechanic applies to championship matches, it applies to storyline arcs, it applies to multi-month television narratives, but it also applies, and this is what I've been building toward, to the relationship between a wrestling company and its audience. The company and the audience are in a relationship. That relationship has a structure, and the structure is the near-fall mechanic, running on a timeline measured in months and years. The resistance is the near fall. The pressure the audience builds during the resistance phase is the investment that makes the payoff valuable. The win carries the emotional weight it carries because of the years of defeat that preceded it. Without Pittsburgh, New Orleans is a championship match. With Pittsburgh, New Orleans is a culmination. The company needed the fans to believe they had bowed at WrestleMania 30. A payoff carries the weight of what preceded it, a payoff that arrives after sustained, visible, documented resistance, after the fans have organized their attention and their pressure and their community around demanding it, is worth something the company cannot manufacture directly. It is worth the emotional quality that comes from winning, and the only way to produce that quality is to let the audience believe they caused the win. Now, I want to be exact about what I am claiming, because the distinction matters. The claim is unsettling in its precision. The available evidence does not support the broader version, that the company planned the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 arc from the beginning, and engineered the resistance to maximize the payoff's value. The internal chaos of the decision-making process during that period has been too well documented to sustain that reading. Here is the precise version. After WrestleMania 30, the company understood something it had understood only imperfectly before that night. A company that had spent 3 years overriding audience response suddenly had evidence of what happens when you let the resistance build to maximum pressure before delivering the resolution. The emotional payoff was qualitatively different from any payoff the company had produced in years. The quality of what happened in the Superdome, the sense of 75,000 people receiving something they had fought for, was unlike anything a company can produce by simply delivering what an audience wants when they want it. You cannot manufacture that quality directly. You can only produce it by manufacturing the conditions that make it feel earned. And the conditions are resistance, sustained pressure, near falls, and then, and only then, resolution. Now, look at Becky Lynch. The company's decision in November 2018 to remove Lynch from Survivor Series following her broken nose was reported in real time as a creative mistake. An error. The company misread the room and had to reverse course. But consider the possibility that the reversal was the near fall, that the announcement of Lynch's removal and the audience's immediate and furious response to it was the count reaching 2, the shoulder that had to rise before the crowd could build the pressure that would make the payoff at WrestleMania 35 feel like a victory they had earned. A victory the audience delivered, that the audience would tell afterward as a story about their own power. Now, look at Cody Rhodes. Rhodes won the Rumble. The count was at 1. The company then handed The Rock the WrestleMania main event slot. The count reached 2. Every "We Want Cody" chant in every arena across the weeks between the Rumble and WrestleMania was the crowd's pressure building toward the shoulder that had to rise before Night 2 could carry the weight it carried. Night 1 was the shoulder rising. Rhodes' team lost under Bloodline rules. The crowd went home with the story still unfinished. 67,000 people returned the following night, and the count reached 3. The audience who built that pressure chose to build it. They invested because the story had earned their investment across 2 years and 2 WrestleManias. But they also built, through their investment, the quality of emotional experience that Night 2 required in order to be what it was. A victory the audience delivered, that the audience would tell afterward as a story about finishing what was started. There is a magic act I want to bring up here at this moment. Penn and Teller have been performing together for 5 decades. They have a routine where they perform a trick and then explain, in complete transparency, exactly how they performed it. The misdirection, the mechanism, the sleight, laid out step by step in real time. They show you how you were fooled while they are still fooling you, and the trick still works. Penn has talked about why. Explaining how an illusion functions does not neutralize it. The explanation occupies the same cognitive resources that catching the illusion would require. The critical faculty that would otherwise catch the sleight is busy processing the explanation of the sleight. You can know the mechanism and experience the mechanism simultaneously, in the same brain, without the knowledge disrupting the experience. I bring up Penn and Teller here because I want you to recognize what has just been described to you. You know how the near fall works. You can name it. You have the vocabulary, the framework, the full analytical apparatus. The mechanism has been explained at the match level, the arc level, and the company-audience relationship level. But the vocabulary did not stop the experience. You read the 5 steps and recognized them. The recognition did not disrupt your investment in the wins. The wins still feel like wins. The yes chant in the Superdome still moves something in you. The Philadelphia crowd at Night 2 is still one of the things you watch wrestling for. The understanding and the experiencing are running simultaneously in the same brain. This is what Penn was describing, and it is also what the company has been doing for 10 years. Here is what the record shows, assembled as a complete picture. The wrestling fan who has spent a decade documenting the company's creative failures has been doing something real. The record is accurate. The frustrations are legitimate. The analysis is correct. And the wrestling fan who points to New Orleans and Boston and Philadelphia as proof that sustained audience pressure produces results is also correct. Both of those things are true, but what neither account fully contains is this. The company responds to audience pressure the exact way a wrestling match responds to a near-fall attempt, by incorporating the pressure into the structure that was always producing it, by letting the count reach 2, by raising the shoulder, by allowing the crowd to build the quality of investment that makes the resolution, when it arrives, worth the years of defeat it took to get there. The smart fan watches this and says, "We forced their hand." But what the record shows is that the hand was always going to arrive in the position they forced it into. The company learned, after New Orleans, that the fans who believe they have power are more valuable, more emotionally invested, more deeply attached, more willing to sustain the relationship through the non-peak weeks than fans who simply receive what is offered. The belief in fan power is the product. You already knew that. You have known it for a while. But what you did not know until this moment is that knowing it was the mechanism. I started by telling you about Pittsburgh. I want to end by telling you about a different match, in a different arena 17 years earlier. November 9th, 1997. The Molson Center, Montreal. Approximately 20,000 people inside the building watched a professional wrestling match end incorrectly. The match was always going to end in some predetermined way. That was the fictional layer. What ended incorrectly was the real layer underneath. The referee was instructed by the company's owner to ring the bell before the match's scripted conclusion. The champion, Bret Hart, had not submitted. He had been told by the man who employed him that his character would lose the championship in a predetermined way at a predetermined event in a city of his choosing. He agreed to this because that is what the relationship between a performer and a company looks like. Then, the company changed the terms inside the match itself. Hart looked around the ring. The bell was ringing. The championship was gone. He understood in real time on live television in front of approximately 20,000 people in the building and millions more watching at home that the floor beneath his feet was somewhere else entirely from where he had believed it to be. What made the Montreal Screwjob uniquely devastating, to Hart and to the audience watching, was the mechanism of the betrayal. Hart's complete and accurate knowledge of how the system operated became the precise instrument by which the system turned against him. He knew the rules. He trusted the rules. He was inside a worked chute and didn't know it until the bell rang. Hart had spent 17 years inside the system. He understood its mechanics, knew who decided what and how and why. He was one of the most informed people in the industry about the relationship between a performer and a company, about where the real power sat, and about the terms of the arrangement. His expertise was the mechanism of the trick. The smart fans watched Montreal in 1997 and drew a lesson from it. The lesson was, the company will put its institutional interests above the performers, above the audiences, and above the agreement they have made with both. This lesson is correct, but here is the lesson the smart community missed. The worked chute is most effective against the person who believes, because of their knowledge, that they are watching safely. Hart was fooled because his expertise made him confident he understood the terms of what he was participating in. The smart who watches Pittsburgh and New Orleans and builds a model of the company as an institution that responds to sustained audience pressure, who believes, because of the documented evidence, that they understand the terms of their relationship with the product, is watching a professional wrestling company from inside a professional wrestling company. The floor is where they believe it is, until the bell rings. Now, I want to do one more thing. I want to tell you what this essay was truly about. The cold open opened on Pittsburgh, January 26, 2014, the moment fans believed they had found the leverage to demand something from the company. That was step 1. The company had presented a direction. The audience registered disagreement. Act 1 built the case for the audience's expertise, validated the years of evidence, confirmed that the analysis was correct. That was step 2, the disagreement escalating into something documented and serious. Act 2 told you about 3 wins: New Orleans, Boston, Philadelphia. The essay let you sit inside each victory long enough to feel it as a victory. That was step 3, the count reaching 2, the pressure building, the shoulder rising in the audience's investment in their own power. Act 3 named the structure, showed you the 5 steps, mapped them against the near fall. That was step 4, the pressure reaching its peak, the moment when the resolution feels closest, the count reaching its highest tension before the inevitable break. Act 4 is the count of 3. The thesis arrives, the frame resolves, the argument lands. You receive what the essay has been building toward, the intellectual payoff of seeing the mechanism named, the claim about the company's product clarified, the analysis completed. That payoff was a near fall. The essay built the same arc the company builds. The validation was real. The argument was real. The intellectual payoff is real, but they were also, simultaneously, the structure of the thing they were describing. You listened to me talk about near falls, while the video ran the near fall on you. You recognized the mechanism while the mechanism was operating. The vocabulary did not stop the experience. The trick has been visible the entire time, and you have been watching it with full knowledge. That is the point. There's a line I wrote in a journal I kept during WrestleMania 30. 2 words. It happened. I kept it. I remember it on the nights when I'm trying to comprehend why I still come back to this. Why a person builds frameworks and keeps records and maintains a relationship with a company that has given me precise, documented evidence across a decade that it will use the quality of my investment as the raw material for the next time it needs a near fall. But the note does not answer that question. It is just 2 words on a piece of paper from 12 years ago. I still believe it. Whatever the sequence was that produced the Superdome, whatever the company understood from it, and what it learned to do with that understanding afterward, the moment in the Superdome was real. The man with his face in his hands in the upper deck was real. And the note was written by a person, in a specific room, at a specific hour, who was not performing the emotion for an audience, because there was no audience. That cost of being the kind of fan whose investment is real enough to be used is something I have been trying to calculate for years, and it keeps coming out differently. Some nights, it seems like the most devastating thing I know about this form, but other nights, it reads like a description of every relationship that has ever mattered to anyone. You only have something to lose if you were actually there. There is a match I have watched 14 times. A man dives over the top rope and lands on his face. I know he is okay. I know he will wrestle for another 12 years, but it still makes me gasp. The other man hits a super kick and goes for a cover that I know will not succeed, but it still makes me believe that it will. I have memorized all the near falls. I know when the finish will arrive. The moment the crowd breaks, the mechanics behind it, and exactly what the company needed from that crowd for the story to function. I understand all of it, clearly and completely. I watched it for the 14th time 6 weeks ago. The crowd broke the same way. So did I. The show is on tonight. I am watching.